This is Challenger Approaching, where we take a character who isn't playable in Smash Bros. Yet and theorycraft a full fighter design as if they did get in. Our challenger this time is, well, overshadowed. Kirby has an ever-growing supporting cast with some really interesting characters, but when it comes to Smash, all eyes lately have been on one of them who somehow hasn't made it in yet. And it's kind of a shame, both that he hasn't made it in and the way that fact has blocked other characters from getting discussed more, especially our star of the hour here, whose popularity has grown enough over time that I think he's worth talking about in case things line up perfectly for him after all. So, let's roll up those non-existent sleeves and see what this Master of Magic has going on. Magolor! Magolor is, I think we're best off going through the whole backstory for this one. Magolor started out traveling between worlds, searching for treasures. Having read an old book that spoke of a legendary Master Crown located on the planet Halcandra, he was tempted by rumors of the crown granting incredible powers, and traveled to Halcandra to obtain it. But after getting beaten half to death by the dragon protecting the crown, he realized he'd need some suckers to do the dirty work. Fortunately, he found an ancient spaceship buried not far away, and after reactivating it and naming it the Lore Starcutter, he sailed off to find capable warriors. This is how he discovered the planet Popstar, and promptly crash-landed. In a stroke of fortune, Kirby and his band of friends were nearby, and quickly offered their assistance in recovering the scattered pieces of the ship. In exchange, Magolor promised to take them to Halcandra, which he pretended was his home world. Initially seeing the gang as naive, easily fooled, and lesser than himself, he did start to become fond of them. Kirby and the others pulled through, the lore was reassembled, and off they were to Halcandra, where, after some more adventuring, they faced and struck down the dragon. Finally, Magolor had his prize, but it was all a trap, for the crown had a mind of its own, twisting his form to bring out the darkness in his heart, taking his selfish desires for power and amplifying them into a thirst to conquer the universe, with Popstar as his first target. Kirby and the others gave chase, with help from the not-actually-dead dragon, following Magolor into another dimension and facing him directly. As the fight dragged on, the crown took further control, slowly consuming his very soul and turning his body into a vessel through which to destroy everything. But it was Kirby who triumphed, and the crown was separated from Magolor, and both were pulled into a rift, never to be seen again. Except, not exactly. Magolor came to in a strange dimensional void with his powers greatly weakened and his heart wrought with guilt. His mission now was to escape this personal hell and return to the friends who saved him from a terrible fate. Traversing this unknown place, he recovered more of his powers and bested echoes of the enemies he'd manipulated Kirby into fighting, eventually reaching the crown itself, which had reawakened and possessed a celestial fruit to carry out its omnicidal aims directly. But where the Magolor of the past would have fled or made someone else handle it, now he faced the abomination himself. And, in his first truly heroic act, took an ordinary sword, infused it with all the powers he'd just regained, and personally cut down the Master Crown, ensuring it could never corrupt anyone else ever again. Yeah, this is a Kirby game, by the way. Can you see why this guy's become so popular? The reveal that the fun companion character was manipulating you all along was a major plot twist in the first game of a Kirby renaissance, and the devs at HAL kept finding ways to include him in spin-offs, compilations, and official artwork, eventually leading to a remaster with a new post-game mode/redemption arc. But does any of this actually matter for Smash? Well, I am not going to say Magolor should get in before Bandana Dee. However, we've gotten 2 Kirby newcomers in one game before, and depending on how big the newcomer class is next time, it could happen again. If the Smash team wants to expand Kirby's lineup to 5, I think this egg-shaped, cat-eared former villain would be perfect. So, how could Magolor fight in Smash? Now, where do we start? Visually, what you see with Magolor is what you get, but the details are important. The gear pattern on his robes connect him both to his ship and to the Ancients in a way that hasn't fully been explained. His color scheme includes heavy use of yellowish gold to represent the traitor figure he originally was. Seriously, that's why the art team used that color. All those memes about Kirby lore aren't just memes. Also worth pointing out, his hands aren't connected to his body. Being able to move his hands independently could make for some extra unique animations for stuff like getting up from the ledge or when something makes him trip. Magolor's personality is another reason why he's so memorable. While he's not a bad guy anymore, he's still got a few vices and flaws. For one, he's still a crafty son of a whatever species he is, and has a bit of an ego, especially when it comes to competition. Could lead to extra disappointed animations when he messes up or loses, like he's trying to be sportsmanlike but just can't let it go. Despite that, though, he really is trying to do better. The cheeriness that was once a facade has become more genuine. For Magolor's alternate costumes, we got an interesting selection here. There's his default, then 3 more based on the palette swaps used by players 2, 3, and 4 when there are multiple of him running around in Star Allies. His 5th is based on Kirby. Can't forget his old friend, right? Number 6 is inspired by Landia, the dragon that guarded the Master Crown, and a reminder of his past transgressions. Related, number 7 takes on the color scheme of when he put on the Master Crown. It's just cosmetic this time though, promise. And his final alt is a full-on costume swap with his robes tattered and drained of color, based on his epilogue mode. Looks cool in its own way, right? Next up, we have stats, fighting style, all of that. What best befits a magic-wielding mastermind? Yeah, no surprise there. If you're a mage, you're probably built to be a zoner, and Magolor is no exception. With a mix of projectiles and disjointed spells that reach beyond his body, he controls the space around him to make it as difficult as possible for opponents to get in his face. Magolor's type of zoning has an extra focus on traps and setups. Using his available tools, including a very interesting one we'll get to later, he catches opponents with moves that let him combo into other, stronger attacks that'd be harder to hit otherwise. Just like how he once manipulated Kirby, and nowadays, like the occasional pranks he pulls, he has ways to surprise his opponents. The better you plan ahead and learn your foes, the easier it'll be to make them fall for it. Magolor's detailed stats include some high points worth celebrating. His magical prowess is very real and commands respect, with great damage, above average combos when your traps are working, and legit knockout power, especially when your traps are working. And his mobility is, generally, pretty good, especially for a zoner. His running speed and mid-air speed are both in the upper half of the roster. Further helped by a certain quirk, we can interpret his levitation powers from his playable roles as an extra tall and floaty double jump. You know, like what Ness, Mewtwo, and Sora have, which combines with a couple of his specials to make his recovery exceptional. But it's not all fun and games. Some of these other numbers are mixed or outright bad. Sure, he can run and move in mid-air quickly, but he has a mediocre walk, very slow fall speed, which has its pros and cons, and an awful initial dash. If you tossed him into Ultimate, it'd be the 9th worst. Not only does it take him a bit to get moving, his attacks are, well, you see that frame data number. Most of his moves are slow, especially at the end. If you're not careful when and how you attack, you can end up wide open, which is not good for someone so light. The key is using your setups and escape options to make it hard for opponents to capitalize. Easy, right? Alright, what now? Let's check out this moveset we've heard so much about. Starting with Magolor's basic attacks, his jab combo is an original move where he sticks one hand out and emits a small magic spark from it, then strikes with the other hand and a slightly larger spark. A rare 2-hit jab with solid range using his disembodied hands, but it's on the slower side. Magolor's forward tilt is very important. He brings his hands together and casts an orb of magic that flies forward. Yeah, this move's a projectile, and it reaches pretty far. You can even use an angled input to have it curve up or down. This move is essential to Magolor's zoning. It's also very laggy, deals merely okay damage, and won't KO pretty much ever. For his up tilt, Magolor forms a ball of magic in one hand and waves it quickly over his head from front to back. Covers above him pretty well, leads into combos at lower percents, and helps catch enemy jumps in general. Magolor's down tilt is the crouching slide attack Kirby characters always have in the games. But since he doesn't have feet, he just kinda rams into people. Pretty awkward move in practice. The burst of movement and low profile are nice, but it's pretty weak and can't combo. Rounding the set out is a dash attack where Magolor brings his hands together and creates a bigger blast of magic. This one actually is a threat to KO. It's also slow to come out and pretty unsafe on shield, so use it wisely. Magolor's smash attacks are big, over the top, and impractical. Case in point, his forward smash materializes a giant sword that he slams down in front of him. While not as enormous as in the footage here, closer to Ganondorf's size, it is still big and powerful. It's also very slow and has a blind spot right in front of him. Magolor's up smash forms a magic gate above him facing the screen, calling forth a miniature black hole that pulls in anyone touching it for multiple hits before sending them flying. The animation is faster than shown here, but it's still a multi-hit with a ton of knockback at the end, and a lot of startup. And I think Magolor forgot this one was supposed to be a down smash, because he summons a pair of sharp magic needles to his left and right that send upward. His fastest smash attack, which isn't saying much, this one has an extra feature. Charging it creates a second set of needles just past the first, for tech chases and stuff. How about Magolor's aerial attacks? His neutral air brings his hands together and creates a magic orb that flickers around him for multiple hits. Sounds great for defense, except the orb starts out smaller than his body and takes a bit to expand. So, in practice, it's more for combos and punishes. Magolor's forward air forms a larger than normal magic sphere in front of him that pulsates a couple times, dealing 3 total hits. Kinda like Ness's forward air, with a disjoint that's good for defensive spacing. Hey, remember how Magolor's hands aren't attached to his body? Well, for his back air, he looks over his non-existent shoulder, swings both hands behind him, and fires off an explosive magic blast. It's as great at netting knockouts as it sounds, even if it's less active than his other aerials. For his up air, Magolor waves his hands overhead, creating 3 orbs above him that pulse with energy and quickly vanish, dealing 1 single hit. Might be less flashy than some other moves, but this surprisingly quick attack, by his standards, is great at keeping foes from landing. Speaking of which, Magolor's down air is different, moving his hands below him and dropping a magic explosive that blows up once it hits another fighter or stage surface. 1 bomb, not 3 like in the footage here. The bomb is strong enough to KO off the top. It's also slow to come out, very laggy afterward, and poorly suited for hitting people trying to harass you. So, what is it for? Meanwhile, what about Magolor's grab game? His grab animations have a cool name, but he just reaches out with one hand like a regular grab. Pretty good reach, but it's notably slow to come out for a non-disjoint. Magolor's pummel has him lean forward a little and emit magic from the hand holding his opponent. Who needs to hit people when you can let your powers do the talking? Or you can hit them anyway if you feel like it, which Magolor does for his forward throw, a magic-powered palm strike. Deals pretty good damage with knockback at a low angle. Magolor's back throw spins his opponent behind him while simultaneously sticking a magic bomb to their back, which promptly explodes. This is his kill throw, and a pretty good one if his back's at the ledge. Up throw has Magolor lob his opponent above his head, then fire a short-ranged orb directly up at them. The 2 hits deal great damage when combined, but if your victim's at high percents, they might DI out of the shot's range. And his down throw is a fancy name for just bouncing his target off the ground. But hey, you can combo it into a few of his aerials at lower percents. That's nice, but what if you feel like messing with people? Let's see Magolor's taunts. His up taunt has him laugh in his signature manner. Can't be a trickster figure without one of these. His side taunt is another fun one, clapping his hands to applaud whatever's going on. Good for when celebrating when you do something impressive, or mocking your buddy for screwing up. And his down taunt pulls a gem apple out of nowhere and runs it across his non-existent shoulders? How'd he do that? And why isn't he using that thing in his moveset? More lore we don't know yet, I guess. And now, let's see what this former final boss is really capable of. First up, his neutral special. If you played the games he's playable in, you probably saw this coming. Magolor's default attack in the games changes if you hold the button down. The stronger variants are here as one of his specials. Press and hold B, and Magolor brings his hands in front of him, forms a magic circle, and begins charging. Let go, and he fires a cluster of magic spheres that spiral forward. At minimum charge, the 3 orbs are closer together than they're shown here, and deal 3 total hits with decent knockback. Hold a little longer before letting go, and the orbs get bigger and spread out further, closer to the range depicted here. They also deal more damage and knockback, obviously. But if you let the spell fully charge, Magolor ignites the orbs as he casts them, creating a ring of fireballs with surprising vertical reach. This version hits up to 6 times, pushes opponents back further, and deals even more knockback. Beware though, because this version has an approximately Kirby-sized blind spot directly in the middle. Revolution Orbs is a chargeable projectile that deals a chunk of damage with a threat to KO, able to trap opponents trying to land or maneuvering too predictably off stage or otherwise. This is a heavy hitter in Magolor's zoning, and also the most committal, considering you can't store the charge or cancel it by shielding. It's most useful when you have some distance. What's a spacefaring mage to do for his side special? Again, if you're familiar with his moveset, you know what's going here. Another recurring part of his repertoire is surprisingly hands-on. Press forward in B, and Magolor infuses himself with magic and flies forward like a comet. Anyone caught in his path takes multiple hits as they're sent upward, outward, and out of his way. With surprising vertical reach, it can catch opponents off guard, especially since you can press up or down while on the move to drift in that direction. It works a little differently than it does in the games though. Our version does not drag people along with you. The multi-hits push them up and out from their original position, so it's not too easy to carry people right into the blast zone. It also stops dead in its tracks if you hit a wall, stage surface, or enemy shield. Don't let that get you down though. Magolor's Surge is a forward burst option with a cool cosmic theme, something zoners don't normally have. Can use it to make emergency escapes, catch opponents landing further away, and even help your own recovery. Just be careful not to get predictable with it, because the hitboxes don't reach in front of you at all, and you can only use it once per air time. Even if you get hit afterward, you can't let it fly again until you land. Okay, sure, that's neat. But are you a real master of space unless you can warp between dimensions? Well then, yeah, this one's another recurring move and the obvious fit for the up special. On use, Magolor summons a dark purple gate and disappears into it. From there, he has a window of about 2 seconds where he can freely move while completely intangible and mostly untraceable, other than a blurry distortion that gives away his position. And I mean freely move. You can press any direction to float wherever you want and put yourself in as safe a position as possible before reappearing. Careful though, because this move has its own drawbacks. For one, the further you travel while between dimensions, the more end lag you'll incur when you re-emerge. Which is a problem, because this move has no damaging hitbox at the beginning or end to protect yourself with. Dimensional Vanish is a teleport type recovery with far more flexibility than others of its kind, and some extra downsides to keep it in check. The distance-dependent end lag, and the fact that you come to a dead stop at the end and go into freefall, means you're a sitting duck if someone's right there, so don't use it as knee-jerk protection from an attack unless your opponents overcommit. You'll probably be aiming for the ledge most of the time with this, but unlike other teleports, you can change plans after you've started a move. And now for Magolor's down special. If you're familiar with him, you probably know what to... Wait, what? This one's not directly from his playable roles, but it is associated with him. On use, Magolor creates a star-shaped indigo-colored rift in reality directly in front of him. This does nothing at first, until you use the move again somewhere else to summon an additional rift, this one a dark burgundy color. The 2 portals become linked together, and as long as they're both active, any projectiles that touch one warp away and come out the other. This lets Magolor pull off some crazy setups. Fire a magic sphere with his forward tilt and warp it across the stage to hit a far-off enemy, send revolution orbs through to snipe someone from a safe distance, drop a magic bomb into one with his down air and watch it jump out the other and explode, and we're only scratching the surface. There's a catch, though. The rifts interact with any projectile, even if they belong to an opponent. Dimensional Rift is a groundbreaking tool that gives Magolor's traps near limitless potential, unless someone turns the tables on him. The direction projectiles exit the rifts from is consistent. Any that enter horizontally come out straight left or right, whichever is towards center stage. Vertical projectiles, like a magic bomb, come out straight upward, and any that enter diagonally exit at an up and in angle. A solo rift lasts about 10 seconds before disappearing. Summoning a second one makes the pair last up to 20 seconds before they go away. A projectile can only be warped one time, so no infinite loops. And only 2 rifts can exist at a time, even if multiple Magolors are in the fight. And now, what did I go with for Magolor's final smash? Surprised? We're using his starship to deal the final blow. Empowered by the Smash Ball, Magolor forms a giant gate in the background through which the Lore Star Cutter emerges in all its glory. Magolor levitates into the background and lands on the ship's bow. From there, you can move the vessel around to aim your attack, with the help of a magical targeting reticle that appears. Chase your foes down and wait until the time is right. Then press any button and the Lore rockets toward the screen at light speed, ramming through anyone in its path for huge damage. Sounds like some other Final Smashes, right? But this one has an extra trick. Magolor actually cares about his allies now, so if any other fighter on his team is nearby when he activates this move, he brings them onto the lore with him, and they too can help aim the attack, moving the reticle faster than if you were on your own, as long as you don't miscommunicate and get in each other's way. This is how Magolor could fight as a newcomer in Smash, a former villain who found redemption at his lowest point, going through hell and back and returning mostly changed. While his heart has softened, his powers have not, wielding impressive magic and bending the dimensions to his will. Hey, even a good guy can have some fun at his friend's expense sometimes, right? Magolor zones opponents out with high-damaging spells while preparing traps with dimensional rifts and other moves to set up bigger hits. His, generally, good mobility and multiple escape options can make him deceptively tricky to pin down, and his stellar recovery ensures he always has a chance to survive if he isn't defeated outright. However, Magolor's attacks are mostly slow and laggy, with several blind spots, leaving him vulnerable if his ploys don't work. Most of his tools for mixing up when and how he lands are very committal. Getting out of a disadvantage can be a struggle, and the rifts that are key to opening up his gameplay can also be used against him if he isn't careful. So, how'd it go? Did I capture the personality of this ex-bad guy who's still kinda shifty and arrogant? How about how powerful yet flawed his magic is? Notice how many of his weak points get exposed if his player underestimates their opponents? Just like how Magolor himself underestimated Kirby at first? How about the moveset? A lot of stuff fell into place pretty easily, but I bet some of you were surprised I didn't make his black hole spell his down special. I considered it, but the idea behind the rifts was too cool to pass up, and felt in character enough. I also considered using his special star barrier as his shield, but I thought it'd make his defense a little too good. He needs to feel appropriately vulnerable when someone gets in. And there you have it, a deeper cut newcomer pick that hasn't been talked about much, but I think he's worth giving a look. Hell, if Magolor does get into Smash 6, I'd pick him up as a secondary. Mage characters are cool, and Smash doesn't have enough of them. Hard to say when we'll get more Smash news though, but hopefully sooner rather than later. Let me tell you, being stuck between games like this for us Smash YouTubers is almost like being stranded between dimensions. Anyway, thanks to these people here for making this video possible. Shout out to my channel supporters, patrons, and YouTube members for their contributions. High five, low five, all that. And anyone currently supporting the channel for as little as $1 per month can vote on which of these characters goes next episode. How about that? Finally another Pokemon in the poll for the first time since 2023. So, until next time, maybe I shouldn't have bought all those gem apples.